Hey guys, my name is Chip. This is my daughter Eden. You're not the only ones who can bring the family power
That's
up
right.
in here.
Let's go. I like it.
We're representing a movement of youth gospel choirs called Soul Children. And there's hundreds of Soul Children choirs. We're just in charge of the ones here in the UK. So on behalf of all of Soul Children UK, Eden's in 2 of our choirs. Okay. Welcome to the United Kingdom.
Hey, thank you guys so much.
We wanted to ask you about music.
Yeah.
Being used to disciple a generation. How does music help us to disciple, not just a generation, but the generations?
Yeah.
That's good, Chip. And a shout out to each of you in the choirs. Keep expressing that soul to the world. And speaking of expression, what music and the arts and movies really are is, as Luke well says, it's articulating what so many of us cannot. And it has this incredible way of bypassing the head and going to the heart of a human. And I was having this conversation just earlier today with someone about how so often what leads culture, it's not policy or even politics. It's the artists. It's the films, it's the music. That's what's really shaping a generation. And so we're really thrilled, man, to be part of that conversation, to as musicians, to be able to express ourselves, be it our relationship with God, with our wives, with life itself, or now through filmmaking, to be able to put family on display and mums on display and ultimately our family story on display. So we're in it, man. We're in it and excited about what the future holds for the arts, for sure.
So, as my dad said, I'm in 2 of the Soul Children UK
Just
choirs.
overachieving.
By the way, why aren't you in 3?
Yeah. He's got hundreds.
He only leads
should-
2.
Okay,
He only
there you
leads
go.
2.
Oh, you can only be in
Fair
your
enough.
dad's choirs. That
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah. But one of them, my little brother is in. And I mean, sometimes it can be a bit interesting singing together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know you two.
My little brother.
Yeah, you two
What
sing
type
I feel
of
your pain.
what I
I
want to
feel
know is
pain,
what type
Eden.
of interesting things happen.
Yeah.
Annoying.
Between you
We're
and
flipping
your
Floor.
the interview here.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, our dad will get us to sit apart from each other, which is very helpful. But I wanted to know, like, what's it like singing together all the time as siblings?
Yeah. Well, look. You're gonna have disagreements. You know, I think sometimes. I remember thinking when I was getting married, that we did some prep for marriage counseling, and a lot of people were thinking through like, well, as long as if my relationship doesn't have any problems or any fights, it's a good marriage, it's a good relationship. And I've actually come to realize that it's the other way around. It's if you have the disagreements, it's how you resolve those disagreements that actually is what makes a healthy marriage. Well, it's the same with your family. Your family is very similar to a marriage in regards to when you learn to resolve that conflict with your brother, A, you get a lot closer, and B, you can use those tools and pretty much for the rest of your life. You're going to learn how to overcome those disagreements. And the other thing is disagreements are not a bad thing. They usually lead to far better ideas. The truth is you're probably better at certain things in choir than your brother is, but your brother might be a little bit better at certain things as well. And so it's very important to recognize each individual's talents, and it's your job as the older sibling in some cases to try and bring the greatness out of your younger sibling, right?
That's what I've done.
That's right. And so
Greatness out.
for us, we've like, look, we'll disagree. I wouldn't say on a daily basis, but probably on a weekly or bi-weekly on something. It may not be a very big deal, but the hope is that through the discussions and through the trust of relationship over 15, 16, 17 years, and then obviously he's known me since I was 37 years. That's how old I am. That better ideas come to the surface, and so we have our disagreements, but I think oftentimes it's for the better.
Now, I've got a bit of a bone to pick with you guys, because as a child growing up in the 90s, my favorite artists were Rebecca St. James, DC Talk, and Carmen.
There we go.
You made him the bad guy in your movie.
That's funny you say that.
The man's not even alive to defend himself.
Hey, you're laughing, not me.
No, I heard that he was actually quite instrumental in
He
helping
was.
Rebecca.
Yeah,
He was.
Can
he
you
was.
can you please redeem yourselves for a moment now?
Well, and you'll have to watch the film to decide whether he's a true villain or whether it was just a series of unfortunate circumstances
Yeah.
that led him to make a tough decision that we all have to make in business, you know. But Carmen, the first tour that our sister Rebecca St. James ever did in Australia as a 13 or 14-year-old girl
something really
was
young.
opening for Carmen in Australia. And so there's a lot of weaving of our story with his, including coming to the States, and he's the reason that we had, you know, flights to get over to America. He funded us to get to the States, and so in like a lot of stories, there's complexity to relationship and complexity to working together, and our hope with the film is that the real sort of villain, if you will, is this idea of an industry or this idea of, it's sort of a faceless villain in a sense. It was the circumstances. There was the real villain. And yeah, there were maybe some folks like Carmen that poured fuel on the flame. But
That helps. That's awesome. You've
Good.
totally
Good.
redeemed
Totally
yourself.
redeemed it.
Totally.
Last
redeemed
question. I
yourself.
think we got time for one more, two minutes. Right. Our whole thing with Soul Children is that you got to either start a choir or join a choir. Yeah. What would be your encouragement to people considering, genuine Christian leaders wanting to disciple a generation with music, to start a choir? What would be your encouragement to young people, i.e. Eden, my daughter, to join a choir?
Well, I think that young people, it's very important for them to find some sort of identity in the things that they do. And the truth is a lot of young people in these days are finding their identity in very negative things. The thing about the wonderful about choir is whether or not you become a professional singer or not, even just scripturally, like shout out to me praises, sing to me a new song. Like that's just part of it, right? And so why wouldn't you not, infuse that into the younger generation to learn how to sing? Like, look, I grew up singing in the shower. I never thought that I would ever necessarily become a singer per se. You never know where these things can go. You've got early bloomers, you've got late bloomers. You've got some people that may be in the choir right now, you go, you know what, they're not that great. And then three or 4 years later, everything clicks. You never know.
You would have said that about Luke and me, by the way.
Yeah, you probably would.
We were both in the choir and not that great.
Not that good, right? So anyway, I just think there's a community aspect also in a choir that is very endearing, and you're learning to play a role. I think a lot of times people these days, they want to be the star, the leader, they want to be the person. Well, it's like rowing a boat. If you're in a boat with 7 other people and you've got one guy that just wants to be the leader, it's going to be a disaster. But it's in the unison of all of them working together that something beautiful takes place. And I think it's the same in a choir. You've got to learn to play off of each other, and you've got to learn to be a team. And I think that those are things that are, A, lifelong skills, and B, what a wonderful thing to be able to have people that are like-minded, heading in a similar direction, that you can befriend and that you can do life with.
What he just said. That's great. Guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.